वेलकम इन अनदर वीडियो ऑफ इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स स्टूडेंट। लास्ट लेक्चर में हमने चूजिंग योर प्लेटफॉर्म का डिटेल स्टडी किया था। तो आज के इस वीडियो लेक्चर में हम आर्डिनो का डिटेल स्टडी करेंगे। तो शुरू करते हैं आज का ये वीडियो। तो सिलेबस का नेक्स्ट टॉपिक है आर्डिनो। सो इन दैट फर्स्ट पॉइंट इज द आर्डिनो टीम्स फोकस ऑन सिंप्लिसिटी रादर देन द रॉ परफॉर्मेंस for the board and has made the Arduino the board of the choice is almost every beginner फिजिकल कंप्यूटिंग प्रोजेक्ट। ठीक है, तो आर्डिनो एक तरह का बोर्ड है जिसमें माइक्रो कंट्रोलर एक मेन डिवाइस है। ओके, सो दिस आर्डिनो टीम फोकस ऑन द सिंप्लिसिटी। ठीक है, तो ये एक सिंपल बोर्ड है एंड इट इज़ अ गिव्स द परफॉर्मेंस फॉर बेटर, so it will be helpful for the beginners to make the prototype। ठीक है, तो आर्डिनो बोर्ड्स मार्केट में रेडीली अवेलेबल है। ठीक है, जिसमें माइक्रो कंट्रोलर एक मेन डिवाइस है एज ए कंट्रोलर। सो आप उसमें प्रोग्रामिंग कर सकते हो इजीली एंड उसमें आप सेंसर्स एक्चुएटर्स जैसे भी आपकी प्रोजेक्ट की रिक्वायरमेंट है वो आप वहाँ पे कनेक्ट करके उसमें उसके लिए प्रोग्रामिंग आप उसमें लिख सकते हो। ठीक है, सो दीज आर्डिनो बोर्ड्स आर simpler and its performance is also better. So in that first point is the standard Arduino board has gone through the number of iterations. So there are variety of Arduino boards readily available. ठीक है, so for example this Arduino NG, then Uno, so that is Duo Milano. So these are the examples of different Arduino boards, so that contains the different microcontrollers. So depending on your project requirement you can choose this Arduino board and develop your prototype. ठीक है, next the Uno features at 8 mega 328 microcontroller and a USB socket for the connection to the computer। तो यहाँ पे एक एग्जांपल दिया है Arduino का जो Uno मॉडल है या Uno बोर्ड है। so it contains the Atmega। Atmega is the one of the multinational company that manufactures the microcontroller. So this microcontroller is the main part in this Uno Arduino board and it has a facility of USB socket. Through that you can connect this Arduino board to your computer and you can easily program or run the program into the RAM of this Uno board. So that will be easy for making the connection. So like that these different Arduino boards are available, so its features and the functionality will be different one. So here we'll take the one of the example which is Uno Arduino board. So it contains the Atmega 328 microcontroller with the USB socket connection. Also it has a 32 KB of storage, that is 32 kilobytes, and 2 KB of RAM. So the storage is 32 KB and the size of random access memory which is a 2 KB which is inbuilt available in this microcontroller. Again the Uno also provides the 40 GPIO pins, means there are 14 general pins for inputs and output। जिस 14 पिंस की हेल्प से आप यहाँ पे सेंसर एक्चुएटर या भी जो भी आपके प्रोजेक्ट्स में रिक्वायरमेंट्स है डिवाइसेस की, वो डिवाइस आप इस यूनो आर्डिनो बोर्ड में आप कनेक्ट कर सकते हो। जनरली दिस आर्डिनो बोर्ड्स आर यूज फॉर द प्रोजेक्ट लाइक रोबोटिक्स एंड मोटर कंट्रोल्स। ओके, सो इस तरह से जो प्रोजेक्ट्स है इसमें आर्डिनो बोर्ड्स जनरली यूज़ होते हैं। ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे 14 पिंस अवेलेबल है जिसमें आप कनेक्शन कर सकते हो इनपुट्स के एंड आउटपुट्स के। सो दैट इज़ डिपेंड ऑन द प्रोग्रामिंग, सो विच पिन इज़ एक्सेस एज द इनपुट और आउटपुट, सो दैट विल डिपेंड ऑन द प्रोग्रामिंग। सो दिस आर्डिनो मेगा 2560 provides 256 KB of flash storage and 8 KB of RAM, 3 more serial ports and a massive 54 GPIO pins. So that is a another example of this Arduino board, which is Arduino Mega. It is a model number is 2560 that has a 256 KB of flash storage। ठीक है। तो यूनो से इसका जो स्टोरेज है वो ज़्यादा है, यूनो में 32 KB स्टोरेज है एंड दिस आर्डिनो मेगा हैज़ अ स्टोरेज ऑफ 256 KB ऑफ फ्लैश स्टोरेज. The RAM size is also increased. So in Uno board it is a 2 KB. So in case of this Arduino Mega it is a 8 KB of RAM and 3 serial ports are available for data transfer, and there are 54 GPIO pins are available for making the input output connection. The more recent Arduino Duo has a 32-bit ARM core microcontroller. This ARM core is also one of the type of microcontroller, so that will be available in Arduino Duo model. Its specific are similar to Megas, although it ups the RAMs up to 96 KB. ठीक है, मीन्स इसके जो स्पेसिफिकेशन है जो एट मेगा माइक्रो कंट्रोलर की है सेम है, बट द रैम साइज विल बी वेरी. So the RAM size is 96 kilobytes is there. So these are the some general points regarding this Arduino. So using this Arduino we can easily make the prototype for our project by using this microcontroller. Next topic is developing on Arduino board. So in that, using a single USB cable you can only power the board but also push your code into it and if needed communicate with it. ठीक है, तो Arduino board में जैसे हमने देखा कि it support the USB cable. So using that USB cable you can power up this board and also you can push your code into the ROM of this microcontroller on the Arduino board, so you can communicate with it by using this USB cable. So for example, for debugging or use the computers to store the data retrieved by the sensor connected to the Arduino. So for debugging purpose, use the computer to store the data that can be retrieved by the sensor, and the sensor are connected to this Arduino board. So development on the Arduino board is easy, so it can connect through that USB cable to the computer. That can be used as a dual purpose, like it can power the board, also it can push the code into this Arduino board. Then after that, integrated development environment, so it is called as a IDE. So usually develop against the Arduino using the integrated development environment IDE that the team supply at the arduino.cc, which is the official website for the Arduino. So most of the Arduino projects consist of a single file of the code, so you can think of the IDE mostly as a simple file editor. So by using this arduino.cc, here you will get the help for development of these Arduino projects. So Arduino projects consist of the single file as a code, and you can think this IDE mostly as a simple file editor. In that you can edit your code and check your code output by using the simulation. The control that you use the most are those to check the code or by compile it or push the code on the board. So then after that, in editor you edit the code, debug it in the editor, and after the successful debugging you can push your code on this Arduino board and check the output on the Arduino board. So that is the integrated development environment IDE. After that, next is the pushing the code into the RAM of the microcontroller. So your Arduino board is connected through this USB cable to the computer. So sometime you might have issue with the drivers or the permission on the USB port. ठीक है, तो इसमें पहले आपको ड्राइवर इंस्टॉल करना पड़ेगा through this USB port, so that your Arduino boards can be connected to the computer or the laptops. So you need to choose the correct serial port and the board type. So that can be carefully the labeling on your board and its CPU to determine which option is to be select. ठीक है, तो कनेक्ट करने के लिए पहले आपको करेक्ट सीरियल पोर्ट यूज़ करना पड़ेगा USB का एंड टाइप ऑफ बोर्ड. जैसे हमने देखा कि आर्डिनो में वैरायटी ऑफ बोर्ड्स अवेलेबल है. ओके, तो वो आपको चूज़ करके देन आफ्टर दैट यू कैन कनेक्ट दिस बोर्ड विद द computer, and when your setup is correct the process of pushing code is generally simple. When this connection will be successfully done by using this USB cable, the board is connected to the computer, and after it is successfully connected, then you can push or copy your code into the RAM of the microcontroller which is available on the Arduino board. So first the code is checked, and after that it is compiled with any complication error reported to you. After that, if the code compiles is successfully, it get transferred to the Arduino and store in its flash memory. Means if the code is compiled, okay, and if there is no error in that code, so it get transferred to the Arduino and it is stored in the flash memory like ROM on the microcontroller. And at this point the Arduino reboots, means it will restart, and after that it start running the new code. So that is the process of pushing the code in the Arduino board. Next point is the operating system. So the Arduino doesn't by default run as a OS, such as only the bootloader is there, which simplifies the code pushing process described previously. So when you switch on the board, it simply runs the code that you have compiled until the board is switched off again or code crashes. Okay, so this Arduino doesn't have an run an operating system, only there is a bootloader is there which simplifies the code pushing process. ठीक है, जो हमने ऑलरेडी डिस्कस किया है. सो व्हेन यू स्विच ऑन द बोर्ड, जैसे आप आर्डिनो का बोर्ड स्विच ऑन करोगे, सेम उसी वक्त आप सिंपली जो कोड उसमें होगा, ठीक है, दैट इज़ योर प्रोजेक्ट कोड दैट कैन बी रन और कंपाइल until the board is switch off again or the code will be crash. So it is however possible to upload an OS to the Arduino. Usually a lightweight real-time operating system that is called as the RTOS, which is the operating system for the microcontroller, such as FreeRTOS or Duin OS are the example of this real-time operating system, which is generally as the operating system for the microcontroller. So it is possible to upload an OS in the Arduino, which is a lightweight RTOS. The main advantage of one of these operating system is built-in support for the multitasking. Means this operating system will support for the multitasking purpose. So that is the main advantage of this operating system. It is even possible to compile the code without using this IDE, but by using the toolset for the Arduino chipset, for example AVR GCC toolset. This AVR GCC toolset is a collection of programs that let you compile a code to run on the AVR chip used by the rest of the Arduino boards, and a flash resultant the executable to the chip. So it is used by the Arduino IDE behind the scene, but can be used directly as well. So these are the some points regarding the operating system which are used in the Arduino board. Next point is language. The language usually used for Arduino is a slightly modified version of C++, because C++ is the object oriented language. So C++ is generally used for development language in the Arduino board. So it includes some libraries used to read and write the data from input output pins provided on the Arduino. So that will do some basic handlings of the interrupts. So this C++ includes some libraries which are used to read and write the data from input output pins of this Arduino board. So some basic handling of the interrupt also done by this C++ language. So the code needs to provide only two routines, that is setup, which is the main library. This routine is run once when the board is first reboot, So when the board will be start, so at that time it will set up. After that you could use it to set the modes of input output pins to input or output, जैसे हमने GPIO पिन का स्टडी किया था, ठीक है. दैट इज जनरल पर्पस input output pins is there. So these pins can be set as the input as well as output, so depending on the user requirement or the project requirement, to prepare the data structure which will be used throughout the program. Then second instruction will be the loop. So this routine is run repeatedly in tight loop while the Arduino is switch on. Whenever these loop instructions are used, so the code will be run in a loop when these Arduino boards are switch on. So typically you might check some inputs, do some calculation on it, and perhaps to do some output in response to it. So here we take one of the example of blinking a single LED by using this Arduino board. So pin number 13 has a LED connected on the most of the Arduino boards. So give it a name. So this is integer LED is equal to 13, that 13 is the pin number of GPIO. So the setup routine runs once when you press the reset. So we start with the main program, that is void setup. Then after that initialize the digital pin as an output. So pin mode, this LED will be as a set as a output mode, because we have to on this LED and off these LEDs. So after that the loop routine runs the over and over again forever. So it will be continuously in a work in a loop. So while loop is a main function which is used for the looping purpose. So in that loop a digital write means LED will be high, means LED will be on when the one signal will be transmitted. So after that there is some addition of delay which is 1000 seconds. So wait for this 1000 seconds. After that the digital write, that LED comma low is there, means there is a zero signal will be or 0 volt will be applied, so that LED will be off in that condition. After that again delay is added, which is 1000 second. So again it wait for a 1000 second or wait for a second, and after that this loop will be continue. After that the LED will be again on, then there is the addition of delay, means after some time again LED will be off, then again delay, then LED will be on, like that. So it will blink continuously. So that is a simple program of LED blinking by using this void loop. Next point will be the debugging. So in debugging, because C++ is a compiled language, means it is a object oriented language, a fair number of errors such as a bad syntax, failure to declare the variable are caught at compilation time. तो उसमें syntax error, जो भी वेरिएबल्स आपने अगर डिक्लेयर नहीं किए उसे इंटीजर फ्लोट, ठीक है, तो अगर वो डिक्लेयर नहीं किया तो वहाँ पे एरर शो करेगा, ठीक है, एट द कंपाइलेशन टाइम. सो बिकॉज दिस आर्डिनो इज नॉट जनरली कनेक्टेड टू अ स्क्रीन, सो इट इज़ हार्ड फॉर इट टू टेल व्हेन समथिंग गोज रॉन्ग, ठीक है. तो जिस तरह से आर्डिनो बोर्ड्स डायरेक्टली स्क्रीन को कनेक्ट नहीं होते, तो इसकी वजह से अगर बोर्ड में या प्रोग्राम में कोई एरर आता है, सो इट इज़ हार्ड टू नो द दिस एरर what is something goes wrong into that board or in hardware or in a program. So even if the code is compiled successfully, certain errors will be still happen, ठीक है. अगर बोर्ड में जो आपने कोड पुटअप किया है अगर वो कंपाइल हो जाता है सक्सेसफुली, then also there are certain error will be happen in that. So an error could be raised that cannot be handled, such a division by 0 or trying to access the 10th element of a 9 element list, ठीक है. So these are the some example, means division by a 0 or trying to access the 10th element from this 9 element list. So these are the common errors that can be erased. Next is if Arduino stops blowing the bubbles, हाउ कैन वी डिस्टिंग्विश बिटवीन द फॉलोइंग केसेस। तो यहाँ पे एक एग्जांपल लिया है बबलिनो का, हमने ऑलरेडी स्टडी किया है डिटेल में, ठीक है। सो उसमें जो पॉसिबिलिटीज़ है एरर की वो हम देखेंगे यहाँ पे। नोबडी हैज़ मेंशन अस ऑन ट्विटर, तो एक कंडीशन हो सकता है कि ट्विटर पे अगर कोई मैसेज नहीं है, सो दैट्स वाई दिस बबलिनो स्टॉप्स द ब्लोइंग द बबल, क्योंकि हमें पता है कि बबलिनो बबल रिलीज करेगा व्हेन देयर इज़ अ मैसेज ऑन द ट्विटर। So that is the first condition. If nobody has mentioned any message on the Twitter, so that's why Bubblino stops the blowing bubble. Second, the Twitter search API has stopped working. ठीक है, मीन्स ट्विटर में जो API अगर उसने काम करना बंद कर दिया या स्टॉप या हैंग हो गया है, सो एट दैट टाइम ऑल्सो दिस बबलिनो स्टॉप्स द ब्लोइंग द बबल्स। नेक्स्ट रीज़न इज बबलिनो कैन नॉट कनेक्ट टू द इंटरनेट, ठीक है, मीन्स बबलिनो विल वर्क ऑन द इंटरनेट, ठीक है। तो अगर इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी ब्रेक हो गया है, सो एट दैट टाइम बबलिनो कैन नॉट बी रिलीज दिस बबल्स। नेक्स्ट रीज़न इज बबलिनो हैज़ क्रैश ड्यू टू द प्रोग्रामिंग एरर, ठीक है। अगर बबलिनो में जो प्रोग्राम किया है अगर उसमें कोई एरर या क्रैश आता है, सो एट दैट टाइम बबलिनो डजंट ब्लोइंग द बबल्स। बबलिनो इज़ वर्किंग बट द मोटर्स ऑफ बबल मशीन हैज़ फेल्ड, ठीक है। तो बबलिनो में मोटर यूज़ किया है टू रिलीज द बबल्स इन द एयर। सो इफ द बबलिनो इज़ वर्किंग बट द मोटर विच इज़ यूज इन द बबलिनो will stop, so at that time it doesn't release this bubble into the air. And last reason is bubblino is powered off. If the power of this bubblino will be switch off or it is not working, so at that time also the bubblino is stopped blowing the bubbles into the air. So these are the possible reasons in that bubblino stops the blowing bubbles. So that is the part of the debugging. Next point of syllabus is some notes on the hardware. So in that the Arduino exposes the number of GPIO pins and usually supplied with the headers, that is plastic strip that sits on the pinholes that provide a convenient solderless connection for the wires, especially with the jumper connection. तो जैसे हमने देखा कि Arduino पे इनपुट आउटपुट कनेक्शन के लिए GPIO पिंस का यूज़ होता है। सो दीज आर यूजुअली सप्लाइड विद द हेडर, मीन्स इट इज़ अ प्लास्टिक स्ट्रिप दैट सीट्स ऑन द पिन होल विच प्रोवाइड्स द कन्वीनियंट शोल्डरलेस कनेक्शन ऑफ वायर्स, स्पेशली विद द जंपर कनेक्शन। तो डिफरेंट कंपोनेंट्स को कनेक्ट करने के लिए हम जंपर वायर्स यूज़ करते हैं। दिस जंपर वायर्स आर जनरली यूज फॉर द टेम्पररी कनेक्शन बिटवीन द different components of the Arduino. So the headers are optimized for prototyping and being able to change the purpose of the Arduino easily. Each pin is clearly labeled on the controller board. तो इसके लिए हम जो भी पिन्स वहाँ पे यूज़ करेंगे, so we can label these pins so that we know that which pin is connected to where, ठीक है। In general, you have two power outputs such as 5 to 3.3 volt. So that is the working voltage of these Arduino boards. So that will be from 3.3 volt to 5 volt DC. So that is the power requirement for this Arduino board. So that is the generalized power requirement. So one or more electric ground connection and number digital pins and numbered analog pins are also given. So the ground connection is also made on this Arduino board, which is shown here, and also the digital pins numbers are also given here for in the GPIO pins, and the analog pins are also mentioned here. So the working voltage is 5 volt to the 3.3 volt. This reset circuit is also, or reset pin is also given here on this Arduino board. So these are the some notes regarding the hardware part of this Arduino. Next point is you can power the Arduino using USB connection from the computer. जैसे हमने देखा कि USB कनेक्शन दो चीज़ों के लिए यूज़ होता है, एक तो पावर एंड पुशिंग द कोड इनटू द ROM ऑफ द माइक्रो कंट्रोलर। ठीक है। तो USB कनेक्शन थ्रू इसे पावर भी प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं हम, ठीक है। द आर्डिनो इज ऑल्सो हैज़ अ सॉकेट फॉर एक्सटर्नल पावर सप्लाई, ठीक है। इसके साथ एक एक्सटर्नल पावर सप्लाई का कनेक्शन भी आता है जिसके थ्रू आप 3.3 to 5 वोल्ट सप्लाई आर्डिनो बोर्ड को दे सकते हैं। आइदर वे शुड बी कैपेबल ऑफ पावरिंग द माइक्रोकंट्रोलर एंड यूजुअली इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स दैट यू मे अटैच टू इट। So the Arduino Ethernet has an onboard Ethernet chip and trade the USB socket for an Ethernet one and making it easier to hook up the internet. Means we can connect this Arduino board by using the internet through this USB connection. We can connect it to the internet also. So this is obviously a stronger contender for the useful board for the Internet of Things project. Means by using these Arduino boards we can easily make the prototype for our Internet of Things projects, ठीक है। तो इस तरह से हम Arduino boards का यूज़ करके Internet of Things के जो प्रोटोटाइप्स है या जो इनिशियल डिज़ाइंस है दैट कंटेन्स द हार्डवेयर एज वेल एज सॉफ्टवेयर पार्ट, वो हम इजीली बना सकते हैं क्योंकि Arduino boards रेडीली अवेलेबल है, ठीक है। तो ये ऑनलाइन भी हमें मिल सकते हैं। So most of the boards are share the same layout for the assorted GPIO, ADC, general pin input outputs and analog to digital converter, power pins, ठीक है। तो ये सब फैसिलिटी जनरलाइज लेआउट में है Arduino boards के। You are able to pick back an additional circuit boards on the top of Arduino, ठीक है। मीन्स आपके प्रोजेक्ट से रिलेटेड जो भी हार्डवेयर है वो आप इजीली इंटरफेस कर सकते हो Arduino बोर्ड के साथ, विच कैन कंटेन ऑल मैनर्स ऑफ कॉम्पिटरी टू गिव द Arduino एक्स्ट्रा कैपेबिलिटीज, ठीक है। सो दीज आर द सम पॉइंट्स रिगार्डिंग द हार्डवेयर्स ऑफ द Arduino बोर्ड। नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज openness. The Arduino project is completely open hardware and open software, okay। So these Arduino projects are completely open, means hardware जो उसमें जो components connect होंगे that can be openly seen. The only part of the project protected is the Arduino trademark, because Arduino has a license version, so it has a trademark, so they can control the quality of any boards calling themselves as a Arduino, ठीक है। So Arduino is itself a trademark for this Arduino board, so they can change the versions of these Arduino boards, so that can control the quality of any board. So these are the points regarding this openness. Then we'll see the Raspberry Pi. So this Raspberry Pi is unlike the Arduino, ठीक है। तो Arduino के जैसे ही Raspberry Pi का भी एक सिंपली बोर्ड है, सो दैट इज़ डिज़ाइन फॉर फिजिकल कंप्यूटिंग एट ऑल बट रादर फॉर द एजुकेशन पर्पज़। तो TY के जितने भी प्रैक्टिकल्स है उसमें मैक्सिममली Raspberry Pi बोर्ड का यूज़ होता है, ओके। सो दैट इज़ द अल्टरनेटिव फॉर दिस Arduino बोर्ड। So uses the Broadcom BCM2835, that is system on chip, that is SoC. So the powerful graphic processing unit is there, GPU, ठीक है। Then capable of high definition video and fast graphics rendering. So these are the some features available on this Raspberry Pi. So that uses the Broadcom BCM2835 as a main controller, which is a system on chip with the powerful graphics processing unit. GPU is there, capable of high definition video and fast graphic rendering is there. The Raspberry Pi is also effectively computer that can run a real modern operating system, communicate with the keyboard and the mouse, talk to the internet, drive the TV monitors with the high resolution graphics. Means this Raspberry Pi has a facility that it can connect with the computer with the modern operating system and communicate with the keyboard. Means you can connect the keyboards and the mouse to this Raspberry Pi board, and we can connect it to the internet, or we can drive it with the TV monitor with the high resolution or HD graphics videos. So in simple, this Raspberry Pi is nothing but the mini computer, ओके। तो ये एक मिनी कंप्यूटर की जैसा काम करता है, जिसमें कि ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम भी है, आप USB कनेक्टिविटी भी उसमें कर सकते हो, ठीक है। कीबोर्ड कनेक्ट कर सकते हो, माउस कनेक्ट कर सकते हो, इंटरनेट एक्सेस कर सकते हो ऑन योर टीवी और ऑन अ मॉनिटर, एंड हाई रिजोल्यूशन के जो वीडियोज़ है, ठीक है, वो भी आप उसमें देख सकते हो, ठीक है। तो नेक्स्ट पॉइंट है the comparison between this Arduino Duo model and the Raspberry Pi Model B, because Raspberry Pi has a different models. So we compare this Arduino Duo as the latest Arduino and Raspberry Pi as a Model B as the latest Raspberry Pi board. We have to take the comparison. So there are different points. First one is the CPU speed. So Arduino board use the 84 megahertz as a CPU speed, and in Raspberry Pi it uses the 700 megahertz ARM 11 as a clock speed. Then GPU is there. Then GPU is not available in Arduino board, and in case of this Raspberry Pi, Broadcom dual core video core media coprocessor is used as a GPU. Then memory, RAM. So RAM size is 96 KB. We already see in Arduino Duo. So in case of this Raspberry Pi, the RAM size is also higher, that is 512 MB, that is megabytes. Storage means external storage is 512 KB in case of Arduino Duo, and in case of this Raspberry Pi model, SD card is used, which can be a 4 GB plus size is there, means we can connect the SD card externally, that has a capacity of 4 GB. And then operating system, we already see in Arduino board there is no operating system, bootloader is there. And in case of Raspberry Pi, we can install the various operating system like Linux and Windows also install on that. After that, connection. So in Arduino Duo it has a 54 GPIO pins is there, and in case of this Raspberry Pi 8 GPIO pins are there, means we can connect the 8 different pins as the inputs or output for the connections of the different hardware components. Then next point is developing on the Raspberry Pi. So first we'll see the operating system. Although many operating system can run on the Pi, we recommend using a popular Linux distribution such as a Raspbian. So Raspbian is also one of the operating system which is released for this Raspberry Pi model. So we can use also a Linux distribution as operating system for this Raspberry Pi. So this Raspbian is released by Raspberry Pi Foundation. It is based on Debian. So this is the default official distribution, and it is certainly a good choice for general work with the Pi or with this Raspberry Pi. Next topic is the programming language. Once to be made is which programming language and environment you want to use. Python is a good language for educational programming. So in general, in Raspberry Pi, the programming language used is the Python. So that is a object oriented language that can support various libraries. So indeed the name Pi comes initially from the Python. तो ये जो नाम Pi, Raspberry Pi, so that will come from this Python language. So here we'll take the one of the example of blinking lights. किस तरह से हमने Arduino में blinking light का एक प्रोग्राम लिया था. So same program we can run by using this Raspberry Pi model. So first import this RPI, that is GPIO, as a GPIO. GPIO means general pins for input output from time import sleep. After that GPIO.set mode is there. So we can set up the pin number 8 as a GPIO output where the LED will be connected. So set the GPIO pin 8 to the output mode, and this LED is equal to false. So here we use the while one as a loop. means which is always true. So GPIO out dot output, the pin number 8 comma LED is there, so LED is not LED, so toggle the LED status between on and off for the next iteration. And there is a timer, that is a sleep in bracket 10 second, so it will sleep for the 1 second, means there is a gap of 1 second between on and off, so that the LED will be continuously blinking mode. So that is the simple program by using this Raspberry Pi, which uses the Python as a general language. Then another language used for this development of program in Raspberry Pi is the C++, because C++ is also an object oriented language. So Python, as with the most high level languages, compiled to relatively large and slow code as compared to the C++. So there is no issue because the Pi has more than enough memory, so the speed of execution may not be a problem. So Python is likely to be fast enough for most tasks, and certainly for anything that involves talking to the internet. So this Python language is a high level language, and it is comparatively easy for coding in Raspberry Pi, and the execution speed of this Python language is also fast for most of the tasks. That can be a simple task or that can be a complicated task. So certainly anything that involves talking to the internet, means internet connectivity, is also easy by using this Python language. So Python now handles the memory management automatically. Automatic memory management generally result in fewer bugs, तो इसकी वजह से जो भी एरर्स इंट्रोड्यूस होंगे प्रोग्राम में, दैट कैन बी आल्सो लेस ड्यू टू दिस ऑटोमेटिक मेमोरी मैनेजमेंट. However, this automatic work has to be scheduled in and take some time to complete. So this automatic work has to be scheduled in previous and it takes some time to complete. Then depending on the strategy of garbage collection, this may result in pause in operation which might affect the timing of the events. So depending on the garbage collection, ठीक है, तो जो भी वेरिएबल्स प्रोग्राम में यूज़ नहीं होंगे, सो दैट कैन बी कंसिडर एज अ गार्बेज. सो दिस रिजल्ट इन pause in the operation, and that will affect the timings of the different events which are used in the program. So C++ is also used in case of Python, but Python is a powerful language as compared to the C++. So these are the some of the advantages why the Python is generally used in the Raspberry Pi. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट इज सम नोट्स ऑन द हार्डवेयर. तो जिस तरह से हमने आर्डिनो में कुछ पॉइंट स्टडी किए रिगार्डिंग हार्डवेयर, सेम पॉइंट्स वी हैव टू स्टडी इन दिस रास्पबेरी पाई. सो द रास्पबेरी पाई हैज़ अ 8 GPIO पिंस. जैसे हमने देखा कि आर्डिनो यूनो पे 54 GPIO पिंस है, तो इस तरह से आर्डिनो पाई में हम 8 जनरल पर्पज़ इनपुट आउटपुट पिंस सेट कर सकते हैं फॉर इनपुट आउटपुट हार्डवेयर टू बी कनेक्टेड ऑन दिस बोर्ड. So which are exposed along with the power and other interfaces in a 2 by 30 blocks of male and header pins are there for this GPIO. The pins in the Raspberry Pi are not individually labeled, so the block of pins provides the both 5 volt to 3.3 volt output. ठीक है, तो ये जो 8 GPIO pins है, through that we can take the voltage output from 3.3 volt to 5 volt DC. So the GPIO pins themselves are only 3 volt tolerance. Okay, next point, the Pi does not have any over voltage protection, so you are at the risk of breaking the board if you supply a 5 volt input. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे ओवर वोल्टेज प्रोटेक्शन का कोई सिनेरियो नहीं है रास्पबेरी पाई में. इफ़ द वोल्टेज विल बी इंक्रीज बियॉन्ड दिस 5 वोल्ट, सो दैट कैन ब्रेक द बोर्ड और बर्न द components on the board. So the Raspberry Pi doesn't have any analogous input, that is ADC. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे ADC जो है एनालॉग टू डिजिटल कन्वर्टर, ठीक है। तो इसका कोई सपोर्ट यहाँ पे दिया नहीं है, विच मीन्स दैट ऑप्शन टू कनेक्ट इट एन इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सेंसर आर लिमिटेड। ठीक है, तो इसकी वजह से जैसे सेंसर्स टेम्परेचर सेंसर है, तो टेम्परेचर सेंसर जो आउटपुट या डेटा जनरेट करता है दैट इज़ अ एनालॉग डेटा। वी हैव टू कन्वर्ट दिस एनालॉग डेटा इनटू द डिजिटल डेटा। ठीक है, तो हमें इसे डिजिटल डेटा में कन्वर्ट करना पड़ता है। सो दैट फैसिलिटी इज़ वेरी लिमिटेड इन केस ऑफ दिस रास्पबेरी पाई बिकॉज द ADC is not inbuilt in this Raspberry Pi board, so there is no option to connect electronic sensor or there is a limited option available. So to get the reading from light sensitive photo cells, temperature sensor, potentiometer and so on, you need to connect it to the external ADC via the SPI bus। ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे ऑन बोर्ड और सिस्टम ऑन चिप सपोर्ट नहीं है ADC का, so we have to use the external analog to digital converter and they are connected by using this SPI bus। मीन्स हमें यहाँ पे एक सिंपल ADC का IC है, ठीक है, जिसका मॉडल नंबर है 0808। ठीक है, सो इसको हमें इंटरफेस करना पड़ेगा विद दिस रास्पबेरी पाई बाय यूजिंग द SPI bus। मीन्स this 0808 ADC will be interface with the microcontroller or the processor on the Raspberry Pi and they can communicate with each other so that these sensors data will be appropriately converted into the digital one। So these are the some points regarding the hardware of this Raspberry Pi board। And next point is openness। So many of the components are indeed highly open. The customized Linux distribution such as Raspbian based on Debian, the ARM video core drivers and so on, the core Broadcom chip itself and proprietary piece of the hardware। So this Broadcom chip which is used in the Raspberry Pi is also a trademark hardware or it is a property of this Raspberry Pi। So many of the components which are used on this Raspberry Pi is highly open and it uses the Linux distribution which is a Raspbian, and the ARM video core drivers are also used on this Raspberry Pi board। So that will end this chapter number 5 which is prototyping embedded devices। ठीक है, तो नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में हम यूनिट नंबर 3 स्टार्ट करेंगे जिसमें हम चैप्टर नंबर 6 एंड चैप्टर नंबर 7 का डिटेल स्टडी करेंगे। तो सबसे पहले हम चैप्टर नंबर 6 लेंगे, प्रोटोटाइपिंग द फिजिकल डिज़ाइन। तो आज का वीडियो लेक्चर हम यही एंड करते हैं। नेक्स्ट वीडियो लेक्चर में हम यूनिट 3 स्टार्ट करेंगे IoT का। सो थैंक यू।